speaker is a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Biology from Central Mindanao University. He then studied Master of Science in Biology in Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology under a DOST scholarship. Currently, he is a PhD student in Xishuangbana Tropical Botanical Garden of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. In addition, he currently serves as an instructor and unit head in Jose Rizal Memorial State University, Tampilisan campus. Throughout his academic career, he has written numerous articles, as in numerous po, and conducted several researches on the taxonomy of gingers, orchids, aroids, and begonia, not just in the Philippines but also in other countries in Asia. Because of his invaluable contribution to the plant taxonomy, Bulphilum marknivae and the Dendrochilum marknivae are both species of orchids was named in his honor. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Institute of Biological Sciences, College of Arts and Science, the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, we are honored to introduce our today's speaker, Professor Mark Arcibal Naive, MSc.
Good day, everyone. My name is Mark Archibald K. Naive. I am a faculty member of the Jose Rizal Memorial State University Tampilisan campus at the same time pursuing my doctoral degree in Biodiversity Research Group of Xishuangbana Tropical Botanical Garden of the Chinese Academy of Sciences. And my presentation is entitled Saving Begonia, Begoniaceae in Mindanao, Philippines, a verified checklist, lectotypification, conservation, and description of new taxa. So, of course, we all know that the Philippines is a country of Southeast Asia with over 7,000 islands and are grouped into three major islands. We have the Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, harboring over 5% of the entire world's flora, thus considered as one of the world's megadiversity country. It is one of the planet's most geologically and biogeographically complex tropical area, thus considered as one of the Center for Biological Evolution Studies. Unfortunately, the Philippines is among the world's 25 top biological hotspots, which ranks second. Therefore, these species are under extremely high threats for extinction. Just to give you an overview as to the extent of forest cover loss in the last 100 years, so from 70% forest cover in 1900 down to 18.3% in 1999. So imagine how many species have gone extinct because of forest destruction and habitat loss. Without timely intervention, further degradation of our forests will continue and may eventually result in more species extinction before the full exploration of their taxonomy, phylogeny, as well as their economic and ecological importance. One of the largest and highly endemic taxa in the Philippines, which are greatly affected by forest destruction, is the genus Begonia. Begonia is the sixth largest genus in angiosperm, represented by approximately 2,109 accepted species belonging to 70 recognized sections. They are distributed in the tropical and subtropical regions of the world, which are growing as terrestrial and or lianas and are thriving in different types of habitats such as in stream banks, deeply shaded forest with the highest diversity in forest over limestone. So the genus can be recognized by having these following characters: herbaceous habit, persistent stipules, asymmetrical leaves, monoecious flowers, inferior ovary, and three locular fruit. Economically, begonia species are primarily known as cultivated ornamentals, mainly because of their attractive leaves, which varies in shapes, size, color, and variegation. Traditionally, they are used by the local people as a remedy to treat several illnesses and diseases and as a food. So example is the flower infusion promotes blood circulation and elimination of toxins from the body. Poultice of flowers used for burns and toxic sores. Leaves are reported to treat cough and headache. So as what I have mentioned a while ago, they are also utilized by the local people as their food. So example is the leaves and flowers are eaten by the local people as a salad together with other vegetables, and the leaves of some begonia species are actually sour, thus they use them as a souring agent on their local cuisines. So going back to the taxonomic history of the genus Begonia in the Philippines, so the first taxonomic account of the genus was done by Merrill in 1912 with only 59 species. And in 2008, the number doubled to 104 on the account of Mark Hugh on his annotated checklist of Southeast Asian begonia. Since then, the number of uh, researchers working on the genus Begonia have increased, especially the work of Dr. Rubite, and is now represented by 156 species. Of the 156 species recorded, 97% of which are known to be endemic and are classified into two sections, namely section Variandra and Petermania. So despite the increase of researchers working on the genus Begonia, most of this work are actually focused on the northern part of the Philippines, which is in the island of Luzon. And begonia species in Mindanao remain to be poorly known and understudied. As a matter of fact, Mindanao begonia are currently facing a lot of challenges taxonomically. Many of these species have not been recollected for over a century and is only known from the type material as well as protologs with an incomplete species description. Thus, these species have not yet been assessed phylogenetically and their IUCN and conservation status are not yet evaluated. One of the problem also is the existence of the unresolved species complexes, such as the case of Begonia mindanaensis complex, and there are still a lot of species awaiting discovery and description. So as part of our effort to improve our understanding of Begonia and Mindanao and to facilitate biological studies of these genus more broadly, we aim to achieve these following objectives. First is to determine how many species of Begonia are present in the island of Mindanao. Second is to redescribe and like to typify 5 Mindanao Begonia species that we have recently collected. Uh, Third is to conduct preliminary conservation assessment for these collected begonia species. And lastly, to provide a complete taxonomic treatment to the interesting unknown begonia taxa collected in the provinces of Bukidnon and Zamboanga del Sur. The study hopes and aims to provide a complete revision of the genus Begonia in Mindanao, which will serve as a supplementary information on Philippine flora and a contribution to other related studies such as in phylogenetics, biogeographic, and pharmacological studies. This study also serves as a baseline information essential for the sustainable conservation of these highly endemic taxa. So moving on to the materials and methods, so prior to the conduct of this study, gratuitous permits were obtained in the different localities where botanical explorations were done, which is at present have only been done in the provinces of Bukidnon and Zamboanga del Sur and Zamboanga del Norte. We also have examined the existing collections of the different herbaria, focusing on the collections of Royal Botanic Garden of Edinburgh. So for morphological analysis were done both in the field and in the laboratory, and the collected specimens were prepared as our voucher specimens and will be deposited in the different herbaria, such as in the Philippine National Herbarium and the Herbarium of Northeastern University, Luzon. So leaves were preserved in silica gel for molecular phylogenetic study, and the flowers were preserved in 70% ethyl alcohol and were subjected to stereomicroscopy, allowing us to provide a more detailed species description. So the species were then identified using relevant literature, such as the work of Merrill and relevant databases, such as the Begonia Resource Center. So for the IUCN conservation assessment, the distribution information of each species were gathered from herbarium specimen data, and based on our recent fieldwork. These information were then used in the calculation of its area of occupancy and extent of occurrence in the GeoGet system, and the assessment was carried out following the criteria of the IUCN. So for the results of the study, a combination of literature review, herbarium specimen examination, and recent fieldwork revealed that there are 43 begonia species present in the island of Mindanao, which includes a new endemic species and a new endemic subspecies, which will be discussed in the latter part of this presentation. Of the 43 species recorded, 41 of which are known to be Philippine endemic and 34 are Mindanao endemic. So the number of species constitutes to 26% of the total number of begonia in the Philippines, and these are divided into two sections. We have section Variandra with the least number of species, which is 9, and section Petermania with the highest number of species, which is 34. So these are the different begonia species that can be found in the island of Mindanao, and 5 of which will be discussed shortly. So through our efforts in conducting extensive botanical exploration in Mindanao, we were able to recollect 5 poorly known begonia species and have provided a more comprehensive species description, colored photographs to aid identification, updated their geographical information, and recorded their phenology as well as their ecology. So our IUCN conservation assessment revealed that the Begonia mindanaensis, which is this one, is critically endangered. Begonia oblongata and Begonia affinis is endangered. Begonia colorata is vulnerable, and Begonia malindangensis is least concerned. So next we have the one of our recollected species, which is the Begonia colorata. So originally, the species was identified as Begonia bolsteri. After we did the species description and careful examination of its morphology, our investigation caused us to notice the similarity between Begonia bolsteri and a species currently in Begonia section Variandra, which is Begonia colorata, which is only known from the type gathering. So we can find no characters to uphold Begonia bolsteri and Begonia colorata as a separate species. And through our study, we put them in synonymy with the earlier name Begonia colorata, taking priority and becoming the accepted name. So currently, only a single sheet of the type collection of Begonia colorata made by Warburg in Sibulan is known. However, we left to typify on that sheet here as no holotype was made explicit by Warburg and other duplicates may yet surface. So at present, the distribution of the species is quite widespread and can be found in the island of Mindanao and in Visayas. As for its proposed conservation status, we treated the species as vulnerable. So next, we have the Begonia mindanaensis. So Begonia mindanaensis was originally described by Warburg based on his material from Mount Dagatpan. At present, only a single sheet of the type gathering is known, and we designate it as a lectotype since Warburg did not indicate how many specimens were preserved and duplicates may therefore yet surface. So at present, Begonia mindanaensis is actually very problematic, mainly because there are a lot of specimens collected in the different parts of Mindanao identified as Begonia mindanaensis. But however, through this study, we were able to relocate the true Begonia mindanaensis and have narrowed its distribution to Davao region and in Bukidnon. So basically, other specimens identified as Begonia mindanaensis needs further investigation as it may be a mistakenly identified begonia species, or a new species. So for its proposed conservation status, we treated the species as endangered. So these are the different lectotypes we have selected for each recollected species. So in choosing lectotypes, please make sure that the chosen lectotype is informative and will allow you to really understand the taxonomy of the taxonomy of each species. So moving on. So through our study also, we were able to describe or to discover a new endemic species, which we named Begonia alganunizae, Naive and Kababan, which was published in 2021 in the journal Taiwania. So the species clearly belongs to section Petermania, and we compared it to Begonia affinis from Zamboanga Peninsula and to Begonia bangsamoro from from the central and from the central and northern Luzon. So the species was named after our professor in Mindanao State University, Iligan Institute of Technology, Professor Dr. Olga M. Nuneza, to recognize her efforts in documenting, studying, and conserving the biota of Mindanao while mentoring the next generation of scientists, including myself. As for its distribution, we found this species to be Mindanao endemic and so far can only be found in the province of Bukidnon. As for its proposed conservation status, we treated this species as endangered. So next, we have the new and the very first subspecies described from the Philippines. We have the Begonia bangsamoro subspecies Bagasa, which was published recently in the journal Phytotaxa. So from the taxonomic point of view, the Begonia bangsamoro population we collected from Zamboanga del Sur differs from the typical populations based on morphology and its geographic isolation. So the only morphological difference we see as significant is the narrow tepals, and we do not consider this single character as enough for it to be treated within species rank, following the taxonomy's rule of thumb of at least two good characters. Given a single qualitative difference, albeit quite clear in the material examined, we treated it as a subspecies new to science. So, new to science. Given a single qualitative difference, albeit quite clear in the material examined, we treated it as a subspecies new to science. So far, the new subspecies can only be found in Western Mindanao, in Southern Philippines, specifically in Zamboanga del Sur. The subspecific epithet bagasa is a Sabanan word meaning thin, alluding to the tepals of the staminate and pistillate flowers of this new subspecies. So for its conservation status, we treated the species as least concern given that it was found growing on the a protected area. So indeed, the Philippines is rich in terms of biodiversity. However, the continuing habitat degradation and forest land conversion are major threats to our natural resources. These are attributed primarily to large-scale and indiscriminate logging and mining, burgeoning human population, over-harvesting of resources. These are attributed primarily to large-scale and indiscriminate logging and mining, burgeoning human population, over-harvesting of resources, and infrastructure development. If habitat degradation and land conversion are tolerated today, Filipinos will endure and suffer the loss of lives and biodiversity, displacement of indigenous people, and decline in agricultural productivity. So, all in all, the study highlights the very first verified checklist of begonia in Mindanao, which will help us refine estimates of the true Philippine begonia diversity and will allow us to provide an open access tool for accurate species identification. The study also highlights the rediscovery of two presumed extinct Mindanao endemic species, namely Begonia affinis and Begonia mindanaensis, allowing us to further clarify the controversy behind their identity and taxonomy. So the study also allowed us to synonymize Begonia bolsteri and Begonia colorata. So in addition, we also have provided we also have conducted the lectotypification of five begonia species, which is in accordance to the Shenzhen Code Article 9.3, 9.11, and 9.12. And lastly, the study highlights the discovery of Begonia alganunizae from the province of Bukidnon and Begonia bangsamoro subspecies bagasa from the province of Zamboanga del Sur. So this work is actually far from complete. Thus, we highly recommend to conduct the following. So wider sampling to improve species representation of Mindanao begonia, intensive field exploration of flora of the Philippines, as there are still a lot of species awaiting discovery and description, engagement of the local people and young generation of scientists in exploring and conserving the Philippine biodiversity, and lastly, ex situ conservation for future molecular phylogenetics, pharmacological, and conservation study. So I would like to thank the following uh, organizations, institutions, most especially to the International Association of for Plant Taxonomy and the Yayasan Conservasi Biota Lakan Basa for the funding support. So before ending this presentation, I would like to share to you one of my motivation by Carolus Linnaeus in 1737, which says, Nomina sinesis perit et cognito rerum. If you don't know the names, your knowledge gets lost. Thank you very much for your kind attention.